For 23 long years, an elderly woman devoted her life to caring for her paralyzed son. Every day, she fed him, bathed him, and stayed by his side, believing he was completely unable to move. Friends and neighbors admired her dedication, calling her a saint. But over time, tiny things began to feel off. She noticed subtle changes, small details that didn't make sense. A spoon slightly moved, a glass of water not where she left it. At first, she thought she was imagining it until one shocking moment revealed the truth. What she discovered would leave the entire community stunned and completely change the story they thought they knew. This is the twist you won't see coming. For over 2 decades, a small house on the edge of town carried a story that many thought was about love, sacrifice, and unbreakable family bonds. Neighbors would often see an elderly woman in her late 60s pushing an old wheelchair across the garden, talking softly to the young man sitting in it. That young man was her son, once full of life and energy, who had been paralyzed in a tragic accident many years before. The two of them had become almost inseparable. Every morning, rain or shine, she would be there, feeding him breakfast, reading him the newspaper, and talking to him like they always did before the accident. She would carefully help him with his medication, adjust the pillows so he would be comfortable, and even take him out for fresh air in the afternoons. People admired her. They'd say, "That's real motherhood. That's devotion you don't see anymore." And for 23 long years, this was her life. No vacations, no big family gatherings without him, no long nights out. She made every decision around her son's needs. Many said it was inspiring. Some even called her a hero. But what no one knew, what even she didn't know for most of that time, was that something about this entire situation was very, very wrong. It all began after the accident. Her son, Michael, had been just 20 years old when it happened. He was on his way home from work late one night when a drunk driver ran a red light and slammed into his car. The collision was brutal, and Michael suffered severe head trauma. When he woke up in the hospital weeks later, the doctors told her that he would never walk again, and even more devastating, he would never be able to speak or respond to the world around him. He was in what they called a persistent vegetative state. His eyes could open, but he couldn't communicate. The woman was heartbroken, but she refused to put her son in a care facility. "He's my boy," she told the doctors. "If he's going to live like this, he's going to live with me." And so, she brought him home. For the next 23 years, her life revolved around taking care of Michael, feeding him through a tube, cleaning him, talking to him, making sure he was always dressed in clean clothes. Neighbors recall hearing her singing to him through the open windows in the summertime. She would talk about memories from his childhood, vacations they took when he was little, and even tell him about what was happening in the neighborhood. She truly believed that somewhere deep inside, he could hear her. But then, almost 23 years later, small signs started to appear that made her question everything she thought she knew about her son's condition. It began with tiny, almost imperceptible movements. One day, as she was adjusting a blanket on his lap, she thought she saw his eyes follow her hand. It was quick, so quick, she almost thought she imagined it. A few days later, she noticed his fingers twitch while she was telling him a story about a neighbor's new dog. She brushed it off, thinking it was just a reflex. But then, it happened again and again. She decided to pay closer attention. Whenever she spoke to him, she started looking carefully into his eyes, watching for any sign, any hint that he was more aware than the doctors had said. And what she saw began to trouble her. One afternoon, as the sunlight streamed through the curtains, she said his name softly, "Michael?" His eyes shifted, not randomly, but directly toward her voice. She froze. Was he aware? Had he been hearing her all these years? Her heart began to race. The idea that her son might have been trapped in his own body, unable to speak or move, was both thrilling and terrifying. If he was aware, That meant he had lived through every single moment of the last 23 years, unable to tell her. She began experimenting, asking him to blink once for yes and twice for no. At first, nothing happened, but then one slow blink. She was shaking. Tears welled in her eyes as she asked again. Blink for yes. He blinked. Twice for no. He blinked twice. It wasn't random. This was real. Her son could communicate. In that moment, she realized that for 23 years, she had been living with someone who might have been silently trapped inside himself, fully aware, hearing every conversation, every word, every prayer she had whispered, but unable to respond. She immediately contacted new doctors, demanding advanced neurological tests. When they brought in specialists and ran brain scans, the results stunned everyone. Michael wasn't in a vegetative state. He had a condition called locked-in syndrome. His mind was intact. He could think, remember, and feel. He just couldn't move or speak. For over 2 decades, he had been a prisoner inside his own body. The revelation shook the entire community. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers couldn't believe it. Some were heartbroken for the years lost. Others were amazed at her devotion, how she had spoken to him every day, unknowingly keeping him connected to the world. Michael later revealed, through the help of technology, that he had indeed heard her all those years. He remembered birthdays she celebrated for him, conversations she had by his bedside, and even times she cried when she thought he was asleep. Her love and constant care had been his lifeline. This story became a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the depth of a mother's love. It also raised important questions about medical diagnoses and the need to constantly re-evaluate long-term patients. Doctors admitted that back when Michael's accident happened, diagnostic technology wasn't as advanced. Today, his condition might have been recognized much sooner. The two of them began a new chapter. With therapy, Michael learned to use a computer that tracked his eye movements so he could form words and sentences. For the first time in 23 years, he could tell his mother, "I love you." Those 3 words erased decades of pain in a single moment. Their story spread worldwide, inspiring families and medical professionals alike. It showed that even in the darkest circumstances, hope can survive, and that sometimes the truth can remain hidden for years, only to be revealed in the most unexpected way.